So that was about what you call US, United States of America's presidential veto. Let us move to the next slide and let us discuss Indian president's veto. So 4 veto earlier US president had, but we do not have 1 veto, that is qualified veto. Indian president disposal has only these 3 vetoes: absolute veto, suspensive veto, and pocket veto, right? So that qualified veto, that US president additional veto that he had, right, that veto our president does not have. Unfortunate, right? Not unfortunate, that's fortunate actually, right? So the first veto that we do have is absolute veto, right? So in absolute veto you saw that US president outrightly rejected to assent that bill, but we are partly, theirs is presidential democracy where he is head of state and head of government as well. So there that system can run because he is head of state and he is head of government as well. But here the president, he is only nominal head. The real head is prime minister, who is popularly, this man has not been popularly or directly elected, he has been elected but indirectly. So can you give a right to a nominal? Yes, he has to maintain, he has certain duties towards our constitution, he has taken oath to protect and defend the constitution, but just that alibi cannot be taken to give him this absolute right to reject a law that has been passed by popularly elected government, right? So that right cannot, that absolute right cannot be given, but still our what you call constitution has this absolute veto. So let me tell you the difference between absolute veto that US president had and the Indian president. So there is a difference, and the difference is that the absolute veto in Indian case is exercised only on the cabinet's advice. So if the cabinet says that you need not to pass the bill, right, this bill, right, only in that case president will refuse to assent the bill. Now the question arises that why cabinet will, same cabinet has got that bill introduced, right, same cabinet had got ensured that okay, this bill should be passed, so why same cabinet will suggest president that you need not to pass them? So in what situation the new cabinet will suggest president not to sign a bill that has been passed by the previous cabinet? So situation could be like this. So suppose the term of the Lok Sabha is about to expire and the previous government had to, just to make a political point, previous government announced multiple schemes, right, which were financially untenable. So the previous government passed a bill immediately before expiry of the term of the Lok Sabha, realizing that anyway they have not to come to the power, so let us be headache for the next upcoming government, and by that passing such kind of financially untenable. So suppose if they, through one of the scheme that they have passed or one of the bill that they have passed, they have announced that they will be giving 12,000 or 15,000 to every family if they are voted to the power. So that will be completely financially untenable considering the budget size of our country, right? So in that situation the new cabinet which is voted to the power, that new cabinet can suggest president that you need not to sign, means if until now if they have, the president has not signed the bill, right, so you need not to pass the bill because the government which has just left, right, they did not have that moral, yes they had that legal authority because Lok Sabha term was there for around 10 days or 15 days, but they did not, means ongoing government immediately before 10 days if they announces any kind of financially untenable, so that is not moral, right? They may have legal authority but they may not have that moral authority. So on that grounds that okay, it is financially untenable and they were not morally right in exercising or in passing that bill, the new cabinet can suggest president that you need not to sign the bill. So in the first case would be that in that case the president will not sign that bill and that will be called absolute veto of the president. And the second case could be that if a private member bill gets passed, in that case if the cabinet here there is no lafda of this what you call new cabinet or the previous cabinet, so the same cabinet, so suppose the current government which is in middle of its term, right, so if a private member bill, suppose Shashi Tharoor gets ensured that that bill is passed, right, so if the government, the current cabinet suggests president not to sign that private member bill, even in this case that veto of the president will be called absolute veto, right? So I hope you would have understood the difference between the absolute veto power of United States president and absolute veto, and the situation in which absolute veto can be exercised by what you call Indian president, right? Thereafter what you have is suspensive veto. So suspensive veto is similar to what you call United States president, right? So, but in United States of America's president, you had that two kind of suspensive veto. In first kind of suspensive veto, the veto could have been overridden by simple majority, and in second kind of suspensive veto, the veto could have been overridden by special majority, that is two-thirds of the majority, right? By simple ordinary majority and by what you call special majority, that is two-thirds of the majority. But in India's case, at the India's president disposal, the suspensive veto that Indian president has, that can be overridden only by the ordinary majority. No special majority is necessary. So it's a similar thing. If president's opinion, a bill has to be sent for the reconsideration, and if he attaches or if he suggests that okay, these changes should be made so that the public interest, larger public interest would be served, right? And if the parliament decide that okay, we should incorporate or we should not incorporate, so even if they do not incorporate the suggestions made by what you call president, right, what they can do simply is that they can pass that bill again only with ordinary majority, no need of special majority, right? And if now they send it to president, right, president would be bound, means now he cannot exercise, he cannot do anything, right, once he has already suggested that suggestion, depending on parliament's will, has been incorporated or not incorporated, right? So irrespective of parliament what you call incorporation or not incorporation of that suggestion, right, if the parliament decides to pass this bill with ordinary majority, right, parliament this president will have no option but to sign or assent it, right? Money bill, mind you, cannot be sent for the reconsider. So this is one limitation on the suspensive veto power of president. So money bill, what is the logic that money bill cannot be returned for the reconsideration? So money bill cannot be sent for the reconsideration by president or governor in the state, because money bill, if you know, under article 110 is introduced with the prior permission of president himself. So if he has given a prior permissions for something, how can it be returned, right? So he can maximum he can do is that he can withhold its assent, right, but he cannot return this bill. So this is one limitation on the suspensive veto power of president. So I hope two vetoes has been explained and that has been understood as well. Let us move to the next slide and let us discuss this, what you call a pocket veto. So if you see the pocket veto, right, so if you remember while discussing US constitution, US president's veto power, we had discussed that there is a time limit in which US president will have to exercise the veto power. He will have to declare his intent, but that is not the case. So that is a gray area, and it is in this gray area that the president of India exercises this pocket veto, right? So Indian constitution has not mentioned any time limit in which president has to declare his intent. That was in case of United States, right? So constitution hasn't provided any time limit in which president should assent or reject or send back for the bill, right? So president can formally sit on that bill for unlimited time. And you see in 1982, right, you have this Jail Singh who was president, and he sat on this postal amendment bill. Actually this was an unconstitutional bill. Through this bill the government intended to open the envelope. So this postal amendment bill, so the changes that government had brought through this amendment into the postal act was that on the security grounds, right, what government was allowed to do was to open that envelope and could read the messages that is being transmitted between two private persons. So that was nothing but invasion on the privacy of citizens like us, and that was something unconstitutional, right? So Jail Singh rightly held this, withheld his assent, and he pocketed, means he exercised that veto, was called pocket veto, right? And he exercised that veto for around 5 years during whole of its term, right? So I hope you would have understood the pocket veto, you would have understood what you call the suspensive veto, and you would have understood the absolute veto as well. So this was about the veto power of the president that Indian constitution has, right? There are certain other presidential vetoes as well. So president has veto power over state bills as well. So